Hi everyone, welcome to the channel for the final video in my series on my original layout Bransty. In this video I cover the modifications I made to the brewery and some of the other scenic sections that didn't make it into other videos. Hope you enjoy it. So in the first two parts of the Bransty series I covered the general concept of the layout and how it evolved from a basic Pico plan into some form of representation of my old town of Whitehaven. Um, I covered the station and the engine shed and a little piece of Whitehaven docks. That was my first attempt at scratch building. That just leaves, as I said in the intro, me to talk about the brewery, some of the sidings at the front of the layout, and the area around the tunnel. I decided on a brewery as the industry for the sidings, as I quite like the Metcalf brewery kit. So this was quite a lot of fun to put together. And initially I was happy with the way it looked. I decided to add my own platform beside the brewery, so to kind of better fit the siding, and so I bodged together one from some leftover Pico platform edging, and some plasticard for the top. I added a yard crane at the far end for loading and unloading onto a waiting lorry, and a few barrels and workers to sort of set the scene. But after a while, I decided I like to try and make the brewery look a little bit more like the sort of building you might find in Whitehaven. So there are some red brick buildings in Whitehaven, but what I always remember is the sort of painted plaster ones that you find throughout the town, around about the sort of older Georgian areas. Um, to do that, I tried a few techniques. I tried overlaying painted plasticard, which you can see here, which was okay. But the easiest way of doing it and the best way of doing it to get the look I wanted was just to do repeated coats of acrylic paint, taking care not to get paint onto the windows, which yeah, sometimes I managed to do, sometimes I didn't. Um, from researching a little bit more about Whitehaven, I also came across a name of one of the old breweries in the town. So back in the day, pretty much every town had its own brewery, and Whitehaven had two, I think. One of them was called the Tower Brewery, which you can see a photo of here. Um, and yeah, I found on eBay an old bottle which had the logo for the brewery, so I used that to design a little sign to put on the brewery as well. I also thought the brewery might look better if it was enclosed around a courtyard. So to do that, I used another Metcalf kit, this time for a corner pub that I painted in the same colours as the rest of the brewery. I named it after one of the more famous pubs in Whitehaven, the John Paul Jones. Used the logo, a little pub sign of him, and added a few more details, using the sort of back of the pub as maybe a stables area. So I've mocked up some brewery horses being taken into that. Um, by this point, I sort of ran out of kits, and so I then scratch built some more buildings out of plasticard, um, to sort of make the rest of the courtyard. I added a road for the brewery up to the Wellington pub and the coal conveyor that you were seeing in the previous video. And then I did a brewery dray trundling up the hill, using some I think it was a PD Marsh kit, and also added some old-fashioned grain farish hedging from my original layout, which was quite cool to see being reused, and then some other vegetation on the way up. Beside the brewery, you've got the head shunt for the brewery sidings, and another couple of sidings, and the retaining wall that I talked about in the first video. And then above that, you've got the tunnel entrance, to which I've added above it, a chimney, which is a grain farish model, which is a nod to the candlestick chimney, one of the famous landmarks in Whitehaven, sits above the harbour. It's an old mine, I think it's from Wellington Pit. And yeah, this is quite a lot bigger in real life than obviously even the representation I've got on here. But if you kind of put your head down at track level, look up to it, it does kind of give the effect in sort of a rather Father Ted far away style. Also beside the chimney, I've got a very small cameo of one of the brick inclines in Whitehaven. So the two of these, one of them ran down to the harbour, the other one ran down to Corkicle. And to sort of represent that, I've used some Pico spare track and a small track pin that's been placed to stop the wagon from rolling off. And yeah, that's pretty much it of my on Bransty. So this was my, as I said, first model railway, it says in the title. Started this about 8 years ago now, which seems like an awful long time ago. It was a lot of fun to put together. I've learned an awful lot from doing it, what to do, what not to do, that I've taken into future builds. And I think I've talked a lot about that, how my hatred for insulating points and stuff like that. However, I think it's reached the end. It's looking quite tired now. Um, you'll probably notice there are quite a few broken bits and where trains slow down when they shouldn't. And I've tried as I may, I can't quite solve it. It takes up quite a lot of space. It's my only permanent layout, so I kind of feel like I should do something new. Um, in previous videos, I think it was the first engaged layout video, I kind of talked about some of the ideas that I've had for what I might put in its place. And one of those is what I'm planning on doing. And so to that end, Bransty is no more. This was the last train departing, and I have now got a new baseboard, and I'm starting to build a new layout, which I'll be covering in future videos. Yeah, so anyway, I hope you've enjoyed this short series on Bransty. If you did, please leave a like and a comment. Consider subscribing, and yeah, I'll see you next time for a video on my new layout.